Good evening and welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out this evening. It's obviously been a bit too cold and a bit too wet over the past couple of days for some people to come out, but thank you for making the effort and coming along anyway. My name's Sham. I'm one of the organising team for Café Scientifique, as you can see. Not a lot of my colleagues have joined me this evening either, so always here to help out and set up the equipment as part of the team. So for those of you that haven't been along before, the format of the evening is that we'll have about a half-hour talk, and then we'll have a bit of a break so that you can recharge your glasses, have a little visit downstairs if you need to, and then we'll resume with a bit of a discussion about the talk. So I think that's everything. We'll be recording a video of this evening. We won't be taking any sort of film of any of the crowd, so if any of you are in the run, don't worry. But if you have any problems, please let us know if you don't want your voice to be heard or anything like that. But hopefully that's all fine. For those of you that haven't been along and are interested, all of our other talks are actually on YouTube. That's why we do the recording. So if you're bored over the winter months and trying to think of something to do, fed up with what's on TV, then have a look on YouTube and search for Café Sci Bournemouth, and you'll see the other talks that we've had. Most of them are up there for your enjoyment. As you can imagine, it's not necessarily professional quality film, but you get an idea of the atmosphere and you get some interesting talks. Just a piece of information, as usual for those of you that are regulars, we won't actually be holding a Café Sci in January because it's normally far too close to the holidays and we're all normally still recovering. But we will be back with a bang in February, and in February we're going to have a guest speaker that's going to be talking about a Valentine's Day themed talk. It's all about the science of non-verbal communication between the sexes, so that should be really interesting. What else do we want to say? I think that's about it. Without further ado, and without me rabbiting on too much, I'll introduce you to our guest speaker this evening. It's Dr. James Gavin, who's an exercise physiologist from Bournemouth University, and he's going to be trying to tell us about why it's important for us to start taking the stairs. I'm trying to argue that being on the 6th floor of a building, it's not always that possible, and I do need to breathe when I get there. But he'll be telling us about some of the health benefits that we can get by just doing simple things like taking the stairs instead of taking the lift, or taking that extra trip up the stairs when you've forgotten something. So with that in mind, please thank James for coming along.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for turning up tonight. Now, this isn't going to be a physical activity sermon. I'm not going to be preaching what you should and shouldn't be doing. It's more to give you an understanding of your built environment, how you can use that in your day-to-day, whether you're sat at an office or whether you're taking the kids to bed. Stairs, whether we know it or not, we go up and down them every day, numerous times, different types. So I'm going to be talking about the biomechanics of stair climbing, but also how they can give us health benefits and mobility benefits. So firstly, why stairs? Why is what I've just said really about we encounter stairs every day. So for example, if you go into commute in a train station, crossing platforms, going up to the office, putting the kids to bed, whether it's you've got a loft with steep stairs in, going to the toilet. Not you, sorry, down there. We only tend to realise when we sometimes got to climb a lot of flights, be it on holiday or some examples I'll show you soon, around this area where you've got 8 flights of stairs and it's quite, to get to the top, when's this going to happen? I hope it's a good view. Okay, so just to kick things off, I'm going to put up some images of stairs in the local area, and I want you just to sort of have a think of where they might be. So first set,
Train station.
which one?
Bournemouth train station.
Yeah, they're clean. It's
So-
not boxer.
Okay, so quite easy. So yeah, Bournemouth Station. A little bit older.
Oh, yeah.
By the park.
By,
Boscombe. By the Boscombe Park. Between the.
Yeah. So you've got Boscombe Chine Garden or Gardens. Okay. So a little bit more historic. Banisters been put in at a later date. These ones.
oh, so you,
So quite a
Library, yeah. Is it the
close.
Uni,
Very close.
college?
Okay, so you might not get it. Essentially, it's a university. It's a new building that's gone up. It's a student centre. I think it's, don't quote me, I think it's 5 or 6 stories. It's one of these sort of zigzag installations where it's a lovely building, but changing direction as opposed to straight up. And there is a lot of stairs. These? Quite old. A little bit older, wooden construction.
Here,
Where?
here.
So stairs down to the toilets, which was kindly sent to me earlier on today. So yeah, leading down to, sorry, the toilets. What differences do we just see straight from the off between these different types?
Gradient.
Okay, gradient, which is steepest, do you think?
I reckon the Boston Shine.
Well, it looks like the Boscombe over toilets.
Yeah, so,
Did they?
Yeah,
It's
they
steeper.
yep, so they are quite steep. These ones are quite gradual, and having walked up them themselves, they feel quite easy, and I'm going to lead into that a little bit about the biomechanics, but you can see all the differences. These are quite recent in the Bournemouth station. You've got banisters on either side, you've also got markings, so helping prevent trips and slips. So people automatically, eyes track onto those positions and think, right, foot over. Again, whether you realise it or not, that's what they're sort of there to direct you. Boscombe Chine, they look like they've had a lot of feet up and down them over the years. Banister looks like it's been put in at a later date and fairly enclosed. I imagine in the evening the light's not great on it, so that's another factor that affects whether you go up and down them. As I say, quite gradual and what we call wide going or deep going, so the depth on these is quite nicer. People with big feet can put the feet on them and they're not too steep. Boscombe over, what steep, mainly quite a lot of old buildings. I used to live in a Victorian house and the stairs were really steep, quite high going, and it was a nightmare if I was like taking washing up to my room. I'd have to be really careful because as well they'd have sagging in the middle where over time they've dropped down. So again, whether we realise it or not, on a day-to-day basis we're ascending, climbing up, walking down stairs of different design. And again, it's going to be an optimistic presentation, but I'm just going to touch on the link of physical activity and health. So back in 1953, there's a Professor Terry Morris, and his was a study that first linked cardiovascular disease and physical activity. There's a famous study up in London with bus drivers and bus conductors, and I think it was about just over 1,000, and he was looking at tracking them over a period of years, their cardiovascular health and also their physical activity or sedentarism. He found cardiovascular risk was much higher in the drivers, whereas with the conductors, those that were walking up around the bus, up and down the stairs, a much lower mortality rate. Okay? So little highlight I've got here, spent the working hours walking the length of the buses as well as climbing up and down the stairs of the English double-decker buses to collect fares, whereas the drivers weren't, they were sat there. coupled with that other things like stress of commuting around London and diets in those times, they were also sort of confounding factors on it. But at the same time, the conductors would have been having those same diets, those same stresses. So why is that relevant? Because, again, we react and we adapt to our physical environment. Now more than ever, we have jobs that are based behind computers at desks. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, there was much more manual labour and manual work, be it in agriculture or even, agriculture, factory work. Whereas now, the likes of my generation, I know myself if I'm spending a morning or day at a computer analysing data, I'll make myself walk up those Bournemouth University stairs because it's a way that I can sort of factor in exercise. Not only does it get my head out of work, it gets me moving and it wakes me up a bit. So similarly, these change throughout the lifespan. So whether you have kids and you're then taking them up and down stairs, checking them up on them in the middle of the night, or whether you move to a flat that's on the 7th story and you don't have lifts. We then go through different periods, like when we go on holiday, come back, and we've adapted that holiday mode, we come back, try walking those stairs, it feels much harder. Okay? So we're a product of our daily routine and our environment. And what it's to do with, these will change and fluctuate throughout our life. It's how we take the opportunities in that day-to-day to react to the physical stimuli. My interest in stairs, because I can't really, I'm going to be honest, I haven't been interested in stairs for too long. It's not sort of like a hobby, although I'm sure there's somewhere the hobbyists out there. But my last position at Liverpool John Moores University, I worked on a project that was looking at the effect of lower body resistance and stretching exercise and how that can benefit older adults in climbing up and walking downstairs. What we had in the lab was a nice staircase that was, we worked in conjunction with the sort of the government building standards, and we could set the staircase height, so step height and depth to the UK standards. What we could also do to make the biomechanical demand harder is increase them by 50%. So like what you get in the old Victorian houses, we could increase the step rise. This posed greater demand at the joints, as you'd expect, and it also, we didn't find it in our study, but the likelihood of trip risk is greater because you're having to elevate that leg higher, do more muscle work. So we had the baseline measures of people walking up and down stairs. We had force platforms in each stair so we could see the ground reaction forces. We also had an optoelectric camera system so we could pick up, like Gollum was filmed in Lord of the Rings, we could put markers on people, get them walking up and down the stairs and track what happened with joint angles, joint forces produced, and also calculate joint power. So after training, what were the differences? So alongside that we had eye tracking data. So the hypothesis is that as people become stronger and more confident, they don't have to watch what activity they're doing, they can divert gaze away. So we expected that instead of them looking at the step each time they go up, they'd elevate their view. What we found was after 12 weeks of lower body training, we saw greater knee and ankle strength. So the muscles of the quadricep and the calf. Probably an expected finding, given that that was targeting the muscles. The ankle also received flexibility, so pointing and pulling the foot upwards. What was interesting, that okay, knee and ankle strength improved, but when the older people were walking up the stairs, we observed greater power when they were up stepping. So we call it plantar flexion when we go onto the toes. We found the older adults could produce more power, and the reason power is important is it is strength applied over speed. So the speed at which you can apply strength. It's all nice being strong, but for strength to have functional relevance, it needs to be powerful. One of the problems that we see with older age and the whole thing about trips and slips and fall risk is because power reduces mainly due to neuromuscular challenges. So if we can help maintain power, that helps you. If you trip, you can correct your stance, you can react more. You can be more powerful to move to create that force. So that's quite an important finding, something I'd like to follow up over time here at Bournemouth. We also found when walking downstairs, which is a completely different biomechanical demand, forces were distributed across the hip, the knee and the ankles, as opposed to before training where a lot of people loaded onto the ankles and put greater forces through their ankles.
What about the spine? Because you sort of, I'm thinking about going down, you wanted to balance more as you go down.
One of the other investigators on it looked at ways of walking downstairs, because what we often found with the increased height, so if you increase height of the stair, you've then got a smaller target to hit as you're going down, vice versa as you're going up. So quite a few people adopted a sideways stance. Reason being, because we've got our centre of mass. So when we walk, the whole trick is keeping that centre of mass supported. So you go from double foot support, which is nice and stable, to then bringing your foot off single leg support. Then when you make what's called a forward continuance, that's when you're most unstable. So that's particularly important when you're walking downstairs, because you're essentially free falling to then break yourself. We looked at upper body markers to look at postural stability, and I'm still sort of having issues analysing the data with that, but that's kind of something else we looked at, because we'll come on to it in a moment. Postural stability is a huge factor in balance. So what? Why is this important? Well, a large study recently in Switzerland, they looked at middle-aged adults and they structured them into 3 groups. One group that climbed 8 stories of stairs. Each story had 16, so it was in a parking lot essentially. So what they did, walk up to 8 sets of stairs, get the lift down, do it again. One group did your typical 1 step at a time. The other group did 2 steps at a time. So again, greater biomechanical requirement on the quads, harder work. The reason they included that, because in the older study it was seen to burn 15 to 20% more energy. So again, it's harder not just biomechanically but physiologically, you're burning more calories. The other group was a control group, and they just went about the habitual life and just kept track of every time you went upstairs in a week. What they found was exercise tests after the 14-week training block, aerobic fitness was greater. So the ability to take oxygen in from the air, supply it to the muscles was greater than what it was before. And it was greater for the 2-step group than the 1-step group. So that additional demand, as expected, as well as greater energy expenditure. And that's not just in this study, it's also been demonstrated when comparing flat walking to walking up and down stairs. You have a certain period of time, be it on your lunch break or in the evening when the weather's not great, take the stairs. It might be a bit dull at home walking up and down the stairs, but especially on your workplace, if you can go out for lunchtime, or as I say, if you're stuck on a campus like I am, go into the library, up and down the stairs. Also, increased thigh strength. and reduced heart rate response. So after the exercise, again, after the training period, when they did exercise tests, their heart rate was reduced because they could cope with the physiological demand better. Reason being, you'd expect the heart to be stronger, so one single pump is going to push blood around the body more effectively. Coupled with that was perception. The activity felt a lot easier. And again, that stems back to my example before of when you come back off holiday and everything feels a bit more laborious, unless you've had an adventure holiday or something like that. But beach holiday, getting back into it's a bit trickier. Importantly, coming on to that posture, dynamic balance was improved. So for this, they had participants walking down a single beam. So a raised beam, they walk down it eyes open, and then they walk down it with a harness on, eyes closed. And finally, that important one, or what I feel is particularly important, the ankle power, so the ability to have spring in our step. So, there are sort of some ways that, okay, we might not go out and do stair climbing as a training method, although a lot of athletes do, a lot of non-athletes do. It's important in that it poses a biomechanical demand, so it's tough for our muscles, but it's also motor control, so that postural stability, how we correct ourselves. What I want you to do now is, if I could just get you to shuffle back a bit, and you're just going to stand up. That's alright, so everyone up. And this is just a little thing, an example of testing your postural stability, balance and sensory awareness. So this is a test which is quite commonly used, and it's called the Fix It 4 balance test. And essentially there's 4 different stances, each one more difficult. 30 seconds eyes open, 30 seconds eyes closed. Okay? For the first stage, it's pretty easy. Feet shoulder width apart, hands on your shoulders, crossed. Okay, so as I say, this is for the whole sort of population, so it needs to start very easy. Everyone can do that. Next, close your eyes. Okay, tell me who can feel themselves swaying just a little bit. Okay, ankles twitching that a little bit. Okay, I won't do the whole 30 seconds. Open your eyes. This time, I want you to take what's called a semi-tandem stance. So, with your non-dominant leg at the back, you'll bring your dominant foot forward. So, your back foot, the toe should be in line with sort of the middle of your foot. Quite narrow. Yep. Everyone see that? Again, hands on shoulders. So what we've done now is reduce that base of support, so there's more postural demand, so there's more sort of stability required. Okay, in 3 seconds we're going to close our eyes. Well, I'm going to keep mine open and watch it. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, close eyes. Okay, I can see a number of you now swaying like branches in the wind. Okay, I'll hold it for another couple of seconds, I won't belabour it too much. Okay, eyes open. How did that feel different?
Terrible
Looked
balance.
hard? Okay.
Why is that?
So what you're doing is, not only are you reducing your support, you're shutting off one of your senses. So the minute you close your eyes, sight's gone, and you're relying on what's called proprioception. So it's your sensory awareness. So it's knowing where your limbs are in space. So if I close my eyes, it's knowing where my left hand is from my right, if that makes sense. Okay, so this time I want you to put your feet Again, non-dominant foot at the back, dominant foot directly in front, but I don't want them touching, so I want about a centimetre, half a centimetre between. This one you might need the counters, yeah. So it's like the trapeze artist. Okay, so hands on shoulders. It's alright, just use it, yeah, if you need to use chairs, counters, okay? Everyone okay so far? In 3 seconds we know what's going to happen, don't we? 3, 2, 1. See who can stand the longest. Okay, good work fellas.
You got your eyes peeled.
Okay, so you can see that's pretty challenging. Do you do yoga? Okay. Does anyone, that's a point, does anyone here do yoga or Pilates? Because these are quite often put you in similar positions to these and are very good for your postural stability. So, with that one, again, you're reducing that base of support, but the reason it's relevant to stair negotiation is that you do that movement. Sometimes you'll do it with vision, but also if you're going downstairs or your spouse, kids switch a light off while you're going up, or sometimes I've done it before, you're trying to get to the loft, you have reduced vision. And that's, again, another challenge. It changes from time to time. Now the last one is hands on shoulders, and you're going to raise your knee up. So knee and hip at about 90 degrees. Okay, yeah. So, and again, eyes open, eyes closed. And if you can manage that, eyes closed, good work. Okay. Can I just watch it out?
We're doing that tonight.
Do you like it? Okay, Sarah.
Teacher's pet.
Could you just do that? Again, I want you all to watch Sarah's ankle. So first, eyes open. So pretty good so far. Now eyes closed. Can you see the tendons and the ligaments?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what's happening? Perfect example. So what's happening as we shut off that sense, our sensory neurons are adapting. So they see a deviation in posture, therefore they tell the tibialis anterior to contract. So that contracts to pull us back in a bit. Then the other one counteracts, pulls us either way. So it's almost like a tug of war. And you could really see it in the ankle muscles and the tendons as they were pulling. Okay? Again, relevant to walking up and down stairs is that you go through that phase, you can stand up for a bit or you can all sit down. You go through that phase of heel strike to raising the leg to stepping up. So your postural stability is being challenged all the time. And your sensory, it's an integrative system. It's your physiology, it's your sensory ability, and it's your functional sort of balance. Taken in different cues from different places. And this is what I'm going to link into what I call the 3 pillars of functional fitness. So to be functional for anything, you need mobility. So the ability to get out of your chair, to walk, to stand on your toes, being mobile, moving around. Couple with that, if you've got good balance ability. And finally, is having the strength, or as an addition, that power. So those 3 things, if you can maintain those, tell me how. But that's essentially, that's how to ensure ways for a sort of active lifespan. If you can tax all those things in your day-to-day life, strength, balance and mobility, which stair walking does, then that's a perfect way, better than any spinning class, high intensity exercise, whatever it is at the moment. These things can tick all those boxes. I enjoy my cycling, but the problem is with cycling, it's quite specific in that you're sat in a fixed position, and the skill is, on road cycling, spin. Keep a good cadence up, and you spin and you spin and you spin. When it comes to winter and I start doing more running, my legs are just mal-coordinated and my technique's terrible. My lungs don't feel as expansive as they are when I do a lot of running, and it's just different horses for courses, it's different sort of adaptations and different uses. Similarly, that with cycling, not saying it's a bad thing to do by any means, but cyclists who cover quite a lot of miles a week over a certain amount of years have quite higher risk of low bone mineral density. Reason being, unlike runners or people who walk a lot, they're not loading the joints. So going back to that whole stimulus thing, we need stimulus to grow, we need stimulus to adapt. Same with muscle and bone growth. To have healthy joints and bones, we need some kind of impact. The issue is when we do too much of it, we can get overuse injuries.
I think that's why things like Tai Chi are so good for that sort of thing,
Yeah.
especially in older adults.
And that's
And maintaining that sort of thing.
well, that's the thing, and it's with Tai Chi, that's quite big in the research in the last couple of years. In that it's low impact, you can do it outdoors, it doesn't cost anything, and again, it's ticking those boxes. It's your functional mobility, it's your balance, and it's sort of relaxation tapped in as well. One little thing that I'm going to lead you on to is a website I just found a couple of days ago called Step Jockey. It's a company and it's supported by the UK Department of Health. There's quite a lot of research underpinning this as well, it's not just a funny website. What they do is produce posters like this that you can put in the workplace. I know quite a few universities and councils do it now where they'll have signs like take the stairs, not the elevator or whatever it is. Take the stairs, burn calories, don't take the lift, burn electricity, things like that. But what you can also do, you can sign up to the emails and create your own account, or you can get apps for your phone. And you can put in your residence the details of the stairs, so how many steps you have or how many stairs you have, and likewise you can do it for your workplace. So depending on how much time you can have for the week, you can say, okay, walked up and down the stairs at home 5 times today. At work, I did it not much, once. However, on a busy day, and you can log it and it tells you how many calories you're expected to burn, also what distance you've walked, and some of them have, I don't know if it's this website, but one can set you goals. So congratulations, at the end of the year, you've ascended Snowdon. Or I know some apps with the underground work like that, so they calculate if you've got a usual commute where you're going from, say, Euston to Tottenham Court Road, how many stairs are in between over a year of that commute in 5 days, whatever it is, you can calculate distances. Again, just little things that can be used in our day-to-day life that make us think. And again, taking the stairs. So, again, thank you all coming for tonight, and thank you very much for your time. This is my first Café Scientifique, and hopefully I'll have more in the future. And this was my holiday in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. Pleasurable steps to walk up, I must admit, because it's always nicer when you get a good view from the top. So this is on Lantau Island, with the Buddha at the top. Essentially, the take-home message is that hopefully I've made stairs exciting, and it's just that next time you walk down, whether you're going to the toilet or you're going home, just that awareness of what you can do in your daily life. I used to play football and twisted my ankle, and anyway, long story short, the physio gave me calf raise exercises. Over the years, that's a great one that I've always done, whether I'm washing up at the sink or when I used to work in a bar, just quite easily do calf raises every now and then. And likewise with your balance tests. If you stood at home, just waiting around, It might seem a little odd to the untrained eye, but why not take that tandem stance and challenge your balance? Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and now I open it up for debate. Thank you.
As I say, we'll take 5 minutes or so just for a break, and you feel free to do a couple of runs up and down the stairs. One at a time though, one at a time. Health and safety and all that. But yeah, we'll get back here in about 5 minutes to 10 minutes and we can have a bit of discussion. Thanks.
Probably get it right.
It's normally I'm not sure whether it's been fairly around. That's one of it's no, it's just that it's such a thing that I get really sad. It's like a nice break. Obviously the combat, so we go upstairs, then we go up another stair, challenging one lots of stairs. So we've got, we just calculate.
You adjust to it, yeah. When I first moved over here, I used to go to staff yoga every Wednesday on Calvert, and I remember the gym, so I'd go on every now and then Sunday. I've never, I mainly did it just cycling quite a bit of time. Some people do stretch, not, but then actually more stretches. A lot of things like your core, it does. It's like that work. Yeah. That's why I love I really miss that now. Yeah, that was one of the nicest things about when you go and do that. You just think, sitting there like other stuff around and it just takes your head away from you and you can actually the breathing technique is hard to find. Is that the chiropractor?
And my office was on and you come down, basically, you like the walkway coming down there, but to try and get back up to the wall, there's
I absolutely do now.
Nice and old. I used to live literally 2 roads over Chester Avenue, and I didn't realise I was going somewhere else.
yeah, no, it's
Well, I was saying, that would really possible.
it was always sort of up on main stairs years ago. But then the last two flights of stairs were old windows.
So you hear him crunching the wall.
Well, not only that, it was that change in the step pattern as well. And they were much steeper, very steep.
We always had like an old scout.
That was with physiotherapy.
Same thing as you did. 3 different things.
So when you're walking uphill, keep your same
Nothing too controversial.
No.